There's a new base game for HeroQuest, and it comes with a brand new dragon. First, I'd like to issue a couple corrections from my previous video. Jungles of Delthorax branching quests have 3 different conclusions, and the Berserker is a human, though maybe it's an elf situation where they were adopted. There was a surprising controversy with First Light. When Avalon Hill unveiled the box art on their Instagram account, we noticed that something seemed off about it. It looked weird, and the elf especially looked like generic fantasy generated by AI. If it wasn't published by the official account, I would have thought that this was a fake product. Fans have figured out why things looked so weird. The artist that they hired didn't do all the work himself. He Frankensteined the box art from already existing elements, creating a sort of collage. For instance, the body of the wizard is from the base game box art, but his head was taken from Prophecy of Teller. The response to this box art caused Avalon Hill to publish a statement saying that AI wasn't involved and that Clark Mitchell created it. However, they changed the box art based on the feedback and had Yellowfly Agency design the new version of it. This new box art fits the game much better, bringing it in alignment with the game's other artwork. GenCon 2024 was the first time that we saw anything besides the box art. It was revealed that there are new sculpts of the 4 hero minis, cardboard standee monsters and flat cardboard furniture, new quests, a double-sided board with a new layout, and a new dragon miniature that takes up 2 tiles. I'll be looking at more in-depth photos later on. Just as last year, Kurgan conducted interviews while at GenCon. He interviewed Doug and Patrick, and one thing that I was happy to learn is that Stephen Baker wrote the quests for First Light, and has had a hand in more than just Prophecy of Teller. From the interview with Patrick, we learned that First Light is intended to be used as either a new base game and introduction to HeroQuest, or as an expansion to grow your collection. The new cavern side of the board is intended to be used as a sandbox tool for game masters, and at the current moment, there aren't any plans to release new expansions that will not work with the 2021 base games board. First Light looks to be the low-cost version of HeroQuest, with the goal of bringing it to big box stores like Target. And another important point that I should bring up is that Avalon Hill is not switching to cardboard standees and flat furniture for all their future products, it's just for First Light. One of the criticisms I've seen since 2020 with the new version of the game was its price, preventing it from reaching the same amount of fame that it had in the 1990s. First Light is now available for pre-order at Target in the US and several other retailers such as GameStop, with an expected release date of January 2025. It remains to be seen if this will be enough to make HeroQuest as popular as it once was, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. I'm on the UK version of Hasbro Pulse because this is where the most clear pictures are. Here we can see the new box art, looks quite nice and really fits in with the game. And you can tell definitely that an artist drew this, which is good, rather than it looking like it's pieced together and potentially AI. Standalone game with 10 unique quests and a complete game system compatible with all HeroQuest expansion packs. Welcome, heroes. Heed my word, for I am Mentor, Wizard of the Realm. Will you prove yourself worthy of the title of hero? The quest is calling. And that's just a little description of what HeroQuest is on the back. I like the advertisement for the companion app on the back here, which will connect to something I'll speak about later on. And here are the new hero sculpts. Wizard, Elf, Dwarf, Barbarian. There's the new dragon right there. New GM screen it looks like, with ghostly figures. Ooh, that's cool. Contents, quest book featuring 10 unique quests, game system rulebook, double-sided game board, Game Master screen, 4 hero miniatures, 1 dragon mini, pad of character sheets, 31 monster pieces, 15 furniture pieces, 41 cardboard tiles, 21 dungeon doors, 102 game cards, 6 combat dice, 2 movement dice, 52 plastic movers, which are the things that hold up the cardboard standees. Next is an overview of some of the things that are in here. This is all the furniture, the tiles which from seeing other pictures look to be exactly the same as the 2021 version, the rulebook, which has a nice dragon scale texture on it, First Light quest book, and this big thing right here is the cavern board, which is an alternate board that you can use for your adventures. It might also be used in some of the quests. The cards might look familiar because they're the base game cards most likely, maybe with a couple wording changes just to make it easier to understand. And then we get a really close look at the miniatures, though we do have actual pictures to look at later on. Here's the dragon, and I really like these sculpts. There's definitely a lot of detail with them, and I know some people weren't thrilled that the wizard in the base game was kind of a younger wizard, and so some people preferred using that special mentor miniature. Whereas this guy, he looks similar, but he's a little bit older, or he at least has grown a beard. The elf is a female elf, but she's in a different pose, and I also noticed something right away here. Look at her armor. It's less stylized than the other one of having, like, the boob plate, and it's kind of more straight across, as real breastplate might be. One interesting thing about the elf that the community has figured out is that it looks very much like the old card art of the original elf from the 1990 version, and that dwarf right there is reminiscent of the pose that the advanced HeroQuest dwarf is in. I like how the barbarian has only one hand on his broadsword and is a different pose pointing. I would imagine that he's kind of pointing at the next monster that he's gonna slaughter in a couple more seconds. Here's a rendering of kind of the entire board. I think these cardboard standees are probably going to be pretty effective. Even though they are 2D, they're very nicely colored images, and they're kind of the art that we've seen before for HeroQuest, kind of only in the quest book or the rule book, but it's good to have them in this form. While some people do love 3D minis, there's other people that definitely make do with cardboard standees, or I've seen people proxy other miniatures and little objects in various games. I'm sure that these will function perfectly fine. Probably a ton easier to transport too. Card art looks very familiar. Looks like they didn't create alternate art for the new sculpts. And you can see the quest book here. Quest 1 is the border fort of Ingolden, and you may notice some familiar names just in a little bit of text here that we can see. That is something I will speak about later as well. Something else that struck me as interesting here is that there appears to be a cardboard dice tray. It seems to me like this is a part of the box that you can actually take out. A dice tray and kind of token tray that's just within the box, and they kind of put printing on it just as a freebie for everybody. First Light was the only HeroQuest thing showcased at Spiel, Essen, and Lucca Comics and Games, indicating that we'll just have to wait until after its release to see new content. While this is a bit worrying, it could just be that the game's release schedule has changed after last year's layoffs. Avalon Hill has always been a small team, and so they have limited resources. HeroQuest Italia provided us with more pictures of the physical product, and interviewed Doug at Lucca this year. Doug was asked what he wished that he had added to First Light and didn't, and he mentioned that there was more heroes that he wanted to add, so that is something that could potentially be coming in the future. Physical version of the dragon, I do really like the horns on top of its head. I know some people don't really like the more humanoid pose of it, but I think it's alright. It's kind of a more gargoyle-esque monster, which is interesting, and I like sort of how you can see the light flowing through its wings just because they're a thinner part. There it is, so you can see the scale next to the real barbarian. It could just be my eyes, but the dice to me look a little bit less white, and a little bit more like a parchment color. There's the dwarf, hand axe and helmet cards. There's Doug, GMing the game, and the heroes and the doors and everything. Unsurprisingly, it looks like the game still functions the same way, even though there's some 2D instead of 3D pieces here. Something that really struck me as soon as I saw sort of this purplish tinge on the furniture was that the flat furniture is the exact same as the way it appears on the app. This would have kept costs low, as the work to translate the 3D elements to 2D was already done. It's sort of that linen texture, as well as some of the other community members saying it, that made me think of the tiles being exactly the same as the 2021 version. Doors are sort of floating, I guess, if you want to say, because of those little stands, but I don't think most people are going to be that nitpicky that it's going to matter. Because you have to use your imagination for this game anyways, to imagine that your hero's in a dungeon and not some people sitting around a table playing a board game. Even though it's not released yet, First Light has been in the companion app since the end of September, so if you want to spoil the quests for yourself or take a look at the new mechanics, you can do that. The First Light quests take place at the exact same time as the 2021 base game, meaning that it offers a unique experience for old players. We will also see some familiar faces as a way to facilitate greater world building, which is why you saw Ragnar's name in that quest that we looked at earlier. In late October, Avalon Hill sent out review copies featuring the old box art to content creators. Just as with the 2020 promotional dice boxes, First Light was sent to channels that covered board games in general, rather than the creators that have built their channels around the game. I'd assume that this is intended to increase HeroQuest reach and inform new viewers about the product to gain a wider customer base. Let's table it as one of those creators. I'm pretty sure there are some new rules within this rulebook, but because we weren't really shown what was exactly in it, I can't tell you for sure. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that the furniture was double-sided so that it doesn't matter which side faces up. I know that for some of the other expansions, one side of it has been blank, and those are all the cardboard standees, as well as some rats, which are kind of interesting, considering that at least in the base game they haven't really been a monster at all. Oh, and the treasure chests and throne are on that page. Okay, cool. It's kind of funny seeing all those flat doors. It reminds me of the 1990 version. Except, looks like they might actually be lined up, which I know is not something that happened all the time with the old version. And I have seen people say this about the board, and it's nice to actually see that this is the case. It is the exact same size as the original board, but it's just folded up smaller. There's a lot more folds in it. And double-sided, of course, as you can see. I'm pretty sure that that right there is the boot, which some people in the community have been very passionate about. Oh, beautiful. Looks like they have put extra care again into making sure that the miniatures are not tight in here, which is a relief, because every time I take out my Mythic tier base game to play with, it can be annoying sometimes to click in and out the furniture, and some of the miniatures that I haven't yet painted. It's just a dream to see that you can just pop these ones out and put them back in easily. And yes, the dice are a slightly different color. Oh, it looks like the movement dice are different too. Instead of being red with white pips, they're white with red pips. Dragon stats are 10 movement dice, 5 attack dice, 5 defend dice, 7 body points, and 6 mind points. Okay, cool. So yes, the dice box is actually just a piece of cardboard that's within the box you can flip over and either use as a dice box or a place to organize all the tiles. I saw it before, but I don't know why I didn't mention it. Looks like the wizard is currently holding a spell in his hand. So that might be fun to paint with like a flame effect, or you could do it with sort of a blue or green color and create different spell effects if you want. Just depends on what kind of spell type you prefer. Character sheets might have a slightly different color on them. A recent rumor, which is likely to happen, is that just like with Jungles of Deltharak, Fanroll is going to be doing another dice set with another dice tray. And from what I can see, just like the previous one, this one looks pretty good. And something you might notice is that the dice are actually quite readable. So that's one benefit compared to the previous set. It makes it a more enticing purchase. What are my final thoughts about this? Even with the box art controversy that was solved by Avalon Hill listening to the community's feedback, First Light has potential to be one of the best things for the future of HeroQuest. Depending on how well it performs in terms of sales, HeroQuest might find itself in the hands of a new generation who will cherish the game forever. I like the direction that Avalon Hill went, with the alternate hero sculpts, dragon, new quest book, and alternate board. Those small things make it worth buying, not just for the collector who wants every HeroQuest thing ever released, but also for the player who already owns the base game and wants a dragon miniature after missing out on the Mythic tier. Even though HeroQuest's colored plastic enables you to play the game without painting, having cardboard versions of the monsters allows players to use full color miniatures without the hassle of having to paint them. There's clearly been care put into this product. Is the boot that people were missing from the 2021 base games board has made an appearance in First Light, and the reaction to the box art was heard loud and clear. I think the low-cost version of HeroQuest is excellent, and increases the accessibility of the game without sacrificing any of the things that make the game uniquely HeroQuest. The cardboard furniture didn't stop the game from being fun in the 90s, and it's the same with the full-color cardboard standees. It's the simple rules, the flexibility of the board, and the imagination of the people you play with that allows you to have a great time when playing HeroQuest. I have more videos like this one. Thanks for watching, goodbye.